Fun facts. My name is Prachi. You are 10 times more likely to be bitten by a New Yorker than you are by a shark. And this is the November check-in for my no-buy year. Hi. Hello. Welcome to my delayed November check-in. It's been a very chaotic November, early part of December, but my final exams are finally over. And I've also been dealing with like a couple of health issues on and off. In fact, I'm literally filming this video like an hour before I have to leave for a doctor's appointment, so hopefully I'm able to keep this short, sweet, and to the point. I'm not dying of blood loss just yet, but there is some relatively serious-ish stuff going on behind the scenes regarding my health, which has also been affecting like my energy levels and all that kind of stuff. So I have just been putting all of my time and energy focusing on exams and now on like trying to go to doctors and get that stuff figured out. But that's not what y'all are here for. That's not what I want to talk about today. What I would like to address in what I hope will be a relatively short November check-in are two things that have sort of been like floating around on my brain a lot. I would just like to say that given like my current stress levels relating to school and also all of my current like health problems and stuff, pretty much everything that I said in the October check-in is also valid now. So if you haven't watched my October check-in yet, I'm gonna link that up in the cards because that I think deals a lot more with how stress affects my relationship to shopping and the desire to shop. And you know, I think while a lot of people who are on no buys, low buys, beauty budgets, who are kind of anti-consumerist, while a lot of their November check-ins probably kind of rotated around the idea of Black Friday, the first thing I just want to say before I get into the stuff I really do want to talk about is that I did not have what I would consider to be a very typical Black Friday experience. So first of all, I live in Canada, so it's not like we have like Thanksgiving or anything at the same time as Americans, but unfortunately, because the US and Canada share a border, all of us Canadians are just as surrounded by all of this like noise and chatter about sales and deals and all of this kind of stuff. But about a month and a half ago, in like this like fit of rage and disgust, I was basically like existing in that space where I'm like, there are so many more important things in my life than makeup and beauty, and like, why am I wasting and expending so much time and energy on this thing that like isn't really related to what I really want to do with my life. I was just having like one of those days where I suddenly acutely became aware of how much I had let makeup, skincare, and hair care occupy my mental space and my mental energy. And I was really annoyed with myself for having let that happen. And so I was trying to come up with sort of ways in which the world of makeup and beauty could less capture my time and attention. And so one of the things that I did on that day is I went through all of my emails and any potential makeup, beauty, skincare, retailer, etc. whose mailing list that I was on, I unsubscribed myself from them all. And so what that meant is that when Black Friday came around, I was blissfully, beautifully unaware of any of the like sales, deals, whatever going on. I woke up that Friday thinking that it was just a completely normal day. And here's the thing, because it's like final season, because I'm getting serious about like prioritizing the really important things in my life, I have been severely curtailing the amount of YouTube videos that I watch so that I'm only really allowed to watch them at specific times of the day when I'm doing certain activities. Increasingly what I've been doing is like not really letting myself watch YouTube videos during the weekdays and instead watching all of the uploads that have interested me on Saturday mornings and afternoons, which is usually when I end up doing all of my cooking for the upcoming week. So all the Black Friday videos that everyone was uploading, like they completely passed me over. And it literally wasn't until like later in the day when a friend messaged me saying like, hey, I need you to talk me out of spending like $50 on skincare because it's on sale, because it's Black Friday, when all I really need is a moisturizer, please help. Like it wasn't until I received that message that I was like, oh my god, it's Black Friday. This is not even one of like the two things I want to discuss in this video. We're still in the caveat part of the intro, because the caveat, the reason why I'm telling you all of this is to tell you that like Black Friday and all of the sales associated with Black Friday, they were like a non-issue for me in November. If you are sitting here watching this check-in thinking that I'm going to talk about like my experience with Black Friday and resisting temptation and all that kind of stuff. Like this is not going to be that check-in, because it really was like a complete non-issue, not at all a factor in Prachi's November. Why was that like such a long aside? Like that was so unnecessary. So let's actually move on to the two things that I do want to talk about, shall we? Let's get it. So the first thing that I actually want to discuss for this November check-in is I have been thinking a lot over the last actually 2 months about what it is I want my relationship with makeup to look like after my no-buy year ends. The impetus for me really thinking about what I want my relationship with makeup to look like was me prepping in order to film like an anti-haul video. Right now on my channel as it is, there only exists one anti-haul that I filmed like way back in like early March. So I've been saying for like over 2.5 months now actually that I'm going to film an anti-haul. So what I did is I opened up Word, I created this like document, I listed out all of the like new releases that have been coming out in early September and my thoughts on them and which ones intrigued me and which ones I was like, this is horrible, and I began doing the full bullet point outline. And then life kind of happened. I got busy. I didn't have time to film that video because that would have been like a bonus video that I put out. And so that document just kind of like sat there in a folder untouched for around, like 4 weeks. Sometime mid to late October, I decided, yeah, I did want to film that video where I discussed new releases. And I opened the document that was referring to makeup releases that were relatively new, simply like 4 weeks ago, only to find that like I did not care about any of the stuff that I had deemed worthy of being in an anti-haul less than a month ago. I realized so many of these products, I hadn't even thought about them like once in the past couple of weeks beyond that anti-haul. And so that actually really got me thinking about what generates in me the desire to buy stuff. And sitting back and sort of thinking about it for a while, the thing that I realized is what makes me want to buy something oftentimes is knowledge of the thing. And this actually sort of ties back into that little caveat around Black Friday, right? I was completely unaffected by Black Friday because I just like did not know. I was out of the loop. I actually kind of took myself out of the loop, and my lack of knowledge, my ignorance, basically saved my ass, right? Because, well, I can't desire a thing I don't know about. So frequently we are given the advice that we should be really careful when we go into sales, that we should never buy an item on sale that we wouldn't buy at full price. And yeah, that's like sage advice. We've all heard it a bajillion times, but like none of us ever actually follow that advice. Like, let's be 100% real, right? Like, I have known and heard and been given and actually given out to others the piece of advice that you should only buy things on sale that you already wanted and would have been willing to pay full price for. And regardless of that piece of advice that I have heard a million times, that I tell myself all the times, a lot of times I will begin to desire a thing literally because it has gone on sale and is being promoted to me. Does that make me like a sheep who's susceptible to advertising? Sure. The reality is, like, we are all susceptible to advertising. We are also all susceptible to sales. And anytime a sale goes on and we know about it and we see that there's something that's being like marked down, our brains instinctively suddenly are like, gotta have it, it's a good deal. Because before, what would happen is I would find out there was a sale or a particular promotion on a product, or that this new thing was being released or whatever, and because I suddenly knew about it, it would create this immediate tension inside my brain where on the one side it was like, ooh, this thing is pretty and maybe it's on sale and it's a good deal, and even if it's not on sale and it's a good deal, it's a new release and everyone likes it and they think it's so beautiful and you're gonna buy this thing and it's gonna make your life so much better and you deserve to have all of these like nice, pretty, beautiful, sparkly things. That side of my brain would be in immediate tension with the side of my brain that was like, this is not a good decision. You don't need to be doing this right now. You should not be doing this right now. Get your priorities straight. And the thing is, that tension that exists between like the childish side of my brain that just like wants versus the more adult side of my brain that is like, this is not a good decision. The problem with the fight between these two sides is that any and every fight takes energy out of you. Once the desire for something is like inside my brain, to then have to constantly fight that desire is just mentally really exhausting for me. And so one of the decisions I made about like a month and a half ago was just like to cut myself off of a bunch of the different sources of information. Hence me like unsubscribing from all of those lists of emails, and then also actually being much more selective about what it is I choose to watch, who it is I choose to subscribe to on YouTube. So like that was sort of like one part of the process where it was like identifying my relationship with makeup and beauty and what causes me to want to buy a lot of stuff. But all that really did is give me a picture of what I don't want my relationship with makeup and skincare to look like, right? It's a negative example. It's like, oh, I don't want it to be taking up all of my mental space, mental energy, all of that kind of stuff. It's not like, for lack of a better word, a positive scenario of what I do want my relationship with makeup and skincare to look like. Because in my experience, when you have like a negative habit that you've decided you're suddenly going to not engage in, what you're basically doing is you're like pulling that habit out of your normal like range of activities and behaviors, and you leave what is basically sort of like a vacuum there. And if you don't fill that vacuum in with something, if you like don't generate another vision or another alternate behavior or goal or something like that to dump into that space, that's a recipe for disaster. And this entire year so far, like the months that I've been on this no-buy, has been this very slow process of me realizing all of the different ways in which I used shopping as an unhealthy coping mechanism for my life, all of the ways in which I did not have a great relationship with shopping, all of these like bad habits and thought processes that I had built around shopping, and then slowly one by one replacing them with better things. And like, this is like a much more, I think, introspective conversation to be having at a later time when I'm not on a time crunch to go to a doctor's office, because there was a period of my life where I felt like I was really stagnating. And I think I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in depth, but I have come to realize that a lot of that stagnation came out of the fact that I was spending almost all of my free time, space, and energy on the world of makeup and beauty. And the thing is, like, makeup and skincare are still things that I really enjoy. I really enjoy wearing makeup. I enjoy like cool textures and beautiful things. I perceive myself to be a person who actually has like a pretty strong sense of an aesthetic, right? I love bright, vibrant colors, and I love contrast, and that joy that I feel around beauty and makeup, and that desire to like create with my own face interesting yet relatively effortless color combinations and ideas. Like, I don't want that to go away. And so it's really important for me to then evaluate, well, what do I want my relationship with makeup to look like? And the realization that I have sort of come up with, like the general frame, because honestly, I'm still like fleshing all of this out, comes from my desire for two separate things. So those of you who've been watching my channel for a while know that I have been like talking about those Cover FX monochromatic blushes for a hot minute. And a desire which I have talked about a lot less, like I think I just very briefly mentioned it in my like blush decluttering video, is that for a couple of months now, for at least like 2.5, maybe almost 3 months, I have really wanted like a beautiful, deep, rosy, berry toned blush. I don't own any blush like that. Understanding the difference in my desire for those Cover FX monochromatic blushes versus this as yet unnamed, undecided berry tone blush is, for me, I think key to understanding the difference between the way in which I used to approach makeup versus the way in which I want to approach makeup going into the future. So let's discuss first the Cover FX monochromatic blushes and my desire for them, because that is classic old school proggy, which is this release was announced. It was these brand new blushes from the brand Cover FX. And these weren't just ordinary blushes. They were these beautifully packaged monochromatic blushes with like a silky matte on one side and this beautiful patterned shimmer on the other side. And the aesthetic and appeal and advertising and launch of those blushes was so incredible that it didn't just get me, it got a lot of other people who, unlike me, weren't on no-buys. And so they actually went out and they bought those blushes. And surprise, surprise, it actually turns out those blushes are really good. Lots of people really like them, etc. But here's the thing. I desired that Cover FX blush before the good reviews for those blushes even came in. I desired those Cover FX blushes the moment I saw the promotional pictures, and I desired them without really any like thought or care or concern. My desire for these two blushes exists and has persisted despite me knowing rationally that I already own colors in this family, that quite frankly, there is no need for this blush. If the day before I knew those Cover FX blushes existed, somebody had just come up to me with like a Pantone card and been like, do you want a blush in this color? I would flat out have just been like, nah, I'm good. I had no actual genuine desire or place in my collection for Cover FX's Warm Honey or Spice Cinnamon. Until they existed and I was aware of their existence, I did not want them. They weren't like filling a gap. I was not in search of them. But once I knew they existed, I wanted them nonetheless because they're these like beautiful objects, these beautiful things. And that, I have realized, has unfortunately been the way that I have operated around makeup and beauty for a really, really long time, right? Which is that I don't generate the desire for things myself and then go out looking for them. I instead kind of like let companies release a whole bunch of stuff, and then I let influencers kind of like talk about and hype up those products, and I let all of that external stuff like create a desire inside me. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm expressing myself particularly well. For so long, my thought process has been like something comes out and I find out about it, and then my brain kind of goes like, oh, that's a really nice thing. That's so beautiful. It would be so nice to have. I would love to have that beautiful thing. I think I want that beautiful thing. That's right, I want that beautiful thing. I want it. And I don't want to do that anymore. I instead want my relationship with makeup and my desire for makeup to more closely mirror the way that I have been feeling about a berry tone blush. So here's the deal with the berry tone blushes. No one has released berry tone blushes in the year 2019. Not that I'm aware of anyway. I cannot think of any like truly prominent, hyped up blush releases in the year 2019, with the exception of these Cover FX monochromatic blushes, and there does not really exist a berry tone blush of the kind that I am looking for in that collection. There is one like mulberry kind of color, but it's like weirdly like gray mauvey purple. Like it's not the thing that I'm looking for, like not at all. In my head I have a vision for the kind of blush that I am looking for, and nothing new has been released this year like it. I kind of decided that I wanted a berry tone blush by myself. I've just been wearing a lot of berry tone lipsticks, and I came to realize that I don't really own any berry tone blushes. And because I really like monochromatic looks, I was like, hey, why don't I have any berry tone blushes? Why is this like a gap in my collection? Would they even look good on me? I kind of want to try them. And because I literally had no berry tone blushes, what I did as a first measure to kind of satiate my desire for berry tone blushes is I used some berry tone lipsticks that I had as cream blushes on my cheeks to try and figure out what did I mean when I said I wanted a berry tone blush. Exactly how purple do I want it to be? How red do I want it to be? How deep or light do I want it to be? And so for quite a few weeks on end, I experimented with makeshift berry tone blushes in my collection before deciding that yes, I actually do really like berry tone blushes. I think they look flattering on my skin tone. I have sort of found a general idea of what color I am going for. That involves me like mixing like 2 or 3 of my lipsticks together in the back of my hand. And because quite frankly, I don't want to be using my berry tone lipsticks as blushes for the rest of my life, because I am a person with acne prone skin, and the idea of putting something that routinely goes around my mouth on my cheeks, I feel is just like me asking for skin issues down the road. Like it's not a viable long-term situation, even though it's been working when I want berry tone looks right now in a pinch. Because of that, I've made the decision that at some point when my no-buy year ends, I'm probably going to buy a berry toned blush. To actually satisfy my own curiosity, I sat down and I did a little bit of research. And here's the thing, because the style of blush that I'm looking for has been so out of kind of like vogue almost for a really long time, even like YouTube research couldn't help me. And so what I ended up actually doing is I started looking at my own makeup collection, looking at brands I already like and trust, blushes I already enjoy using the formulas of, and then I just literally one Friday, as like a treat to myself at the end of a really hard week, I went to stores that I knew carried those brands, and I looked at the full selection of blushes that they had on there, saw if they had anything that was like close to the color that I wanted, and then started swatching and playing with it on the back of my hand. I also thought about like which blush formulas I have been dying to try, and I started looking through all of the color options amongst those to see if they had anything that was right up my alley. So for example, the Cover FX monochromatic blushes that I already mentioned, I looked inside that range of blush colors and I realized there was nothing there for me. However, Glossier Cloud Paints, which are a formula I've been wanting to try for a really long time, they do have two perspective colors that are kind of what I'm looking for. One is like Haze, it's more of like a cool tone berry, and the other is Storm, it's more of like a rich, deep, rosy berry. And here's the big difference between before versus now. If you look at my list of prospective candidates for like berry tone blushes that kind of fit the bill and that I will one day narrow down to one which I'm going to buy, with the exception of the Glossier Cloud Paints, which are kind of hyped up in certain corners of YouTube, like amongst us people with a certain aesthetic, none of the other three options that I have on my list are hyped up products that people talk about all the time. This candidate list came from me. I spent some like actual time and energy surrounded by makeup in a store, swatching, playing, having fun, thinking critically, and came up with a list of products that like literally nobody on YouTube talks about, but which are intriguing to me. These include Nars Taos, I'm not sure how to pronounce that color, a Lancome blush in the color Berry Flamboyant, and a Shiseido Whipped Cream blush in the shade Ayao. I learned about all three of those blushes myself. Like, no one hyped them up for me. I didn't see a billboard with the release. Both my list of prospective candidates for berry tone blushes and my desire innately for berry tone blushes was generated by me. It wasn't instigated by like a new makeup launch from a brand. It was me looking at my own makeup aesthetic and then at my own collection and realizing that there was a gap. And the really odd thing that I like did not expect, and I'm not 100% sure like why it is like this, but like I'm weirdly okay with waiting. I don't know if it's because I generated this desire for myself, because I know that this is like a long-term like gap that I am filling. I don't feel any like rush to go out and buy a berry tone blush. I don't feel, there's no like sense of urgency that I have so frequently felt when the desire for a thing has been instilled by something outside of me, like by a new release or by a company or by an influencer raving about a thing, right? That sense of like I need it and I need it now just like isn't there. I don't really know if it's because I know that it's actually filling a gap in my collection and so I want to be careful. Like I don't want to just let garbage in. I want to make sure that the one berry tone blush I buy is like perfect for me. I'm kind of like, I'm okay with waiting to add things to my makeup collection because my philosophy around makeup and acquiring makeup has basically changed to reflect the title of that like one weird Swedish horror film from like a decade ago, Let the Right One In. I'm increasingly growing very, very picky about what it is I allow to enter into my makeup collection. I am only letting the right ones in for now. And I think my brain has just sort of like understood and accepted that sometimes you have to wait for the right one. So that was like my very, very long point number one. The second topic that I kind of wanted to address that I've been thinking about a lot during November is gift giving and wish lists and all that jazz. Because well, not only are we just like generally entering like gift giving season around the holidays, but my birthday is in January. I'm an early January baby. I don't believe in the zodiac, but I'm a Capricorn for whoever cares. And so for me, like around this time in the holidays is like peak gift giving season. I often tend to get like a whole bunch of presents all at once just at this time of the year and then nothing else for the rest of the year because both Christmas and my birthday fall within like a couple weeks of each other. And one really fascinating thing is that I thought that by this point in my no-buy year, because I've been on a no-buy since February 5th of 2019, so it's been like months and months and months, I thought by this point in my no-buy year, I would just be like desperate to buy new makeup, that there would be like so much stuff that I just so wanted to have that my wish list for all of my friends and all of my family members would just be filled chock full of makeup items. And funnily enough, like that has not been true at all. So I have precisely 3 friends who have informed me without me even like asking them for anything, that they will be giving me makeup items for Christmas and my birthday. Two of my friends, what they're getting for me, I have no idea. They did not like consult me, they did not ask. I have like no idea what it is that they have bought for me. Like I don't know what pieces of information over the months and months of conversations that we've had regarding like makeup, skincare, hair care, whatever, that they have paid attention to and decided to get me stuff based off of. After my doctor's appointment, I'm literally going to go out to dinner to meet one of my friends so she can give me like my present. So I guess I will find out then. Now with a third friend giving me makeup stuff for Christmas / my birthday, that friend actually works in the beauty industry and had access through their workplace to the Hourglass scattered lights. And because the scattered lights aren't like claimed or being used by anybody in my friend's workplace, they're being sent to me instead as a lovely, lovely present. But because my friend actually asked me, because these are cosmetics that have been like opened and used before, I know that that's a thing that's coming for me. But again, it wasn't like a thing that I'd put on a wish list and asked for. This was like a thing that my friend had access to and was just like, will you like these? These are nice. With the exception of these three friends who are giving me beauty related things, and all three of them made that decision like on their own unanimously, like I did not ask for it on a wish list. When it comes to my other friends and family members who I am actually asking specific things for, makeup and beauty items are like nowhere on that list. From my mom and stepdad, I'm asking for a new pair of snowshoes. From my sister, I'm asking for like a new tote bag or purse because the handles of my current bag are like super worn out. And from my best friend, I actually asked for a cooking knife because I have been cooking for the last like 2.5 months with like really, really tiny like fruit knives and paring knives. Like I don't actually have the kind of knife that you can like cut meat or cabbage or cauliflower or anything that's like bigger than the size of a peach with. So I've been like on the struggle bus with these like really, really tiny like fruit knives for the last couple months. And so I asked my friend for Christmas and my birthday to get me like a $40 cooking knife. And like, not to be a boring adult, but like I am so ecstatic at that present. My friend already ordered it and got it delivered to me because he was like, I don't want you struggling until your birthday, like let me just give it to you now. And like I have been having the time of my life cooking with it. And I bring all this up just to say that like I really, really thought that I would be like so missing makeup, that it would be all I could think about, all that I would want, that I would, you know, have this like overflowing wish list filled with so many items that I would be begging everybody by the time like my birthday rolled around to be buying me makeup since I couldn't buy it myself. And that just like, that couldn't be further from the truth. When I look at what's actually on my makeup wish list, like things that I feel like I want to own, it's very, very small. And none of it is stuff that right now for me ranks higher than the things that I'm asking like my friends and family for. And I think that really to me is like the biggest indicator of the amount of progress that I have made during my no-buy year. Because quite frankly, I think considering that I started my no-buy year in February, I think if my birthday had been in like March or something, at that point I was like feeling like intense withdrawal from like shopping. I really, really wanted to buy and own like so much makeup. So I think if I had had like a gift giving opportunity earlier in the year because of something, I know that I would just have like leapt at the opportunity to ask every single person I know who was thinking of buying me a gift to buy me like a makeup or beauty related present. And that can be like further from the truth now. That can be further from the person that I am right now. I still like want a lot of stuff, like things will still come out and I'm like, oh wow, like that's so beautiful, that would be so nice to have. But I'm beginning to sort of recognize that this would be really nice to have is not a good enough qualification for me to actually own it. Just to be clear, I'm not saying that like, oh, I am free of all worldly desires, like I don't desire to buy anything, I am like the Buddha, I have reached enlightenment, this is like a thing from the past, wanting stuff. Like, no. I still want to buy a lot of stuff, but it's like I've gotten much better at identifying that a lot of times when I say I want a thing, it's cursory. I don't really want a thing. I just think that would be a really, really nice thing to have. It's not really a thing I need. In a couple weeks, I'll probably forget about it. Like, I'm good. I'm okay, thanks. And that's big for me. That's huge. Anyway, I was supposed to have left for my doctor's appointment like a fresh 5 minutes ago, so I'm going to wrap this up. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great upcoming week. And even if the rest of your week ends up becoming messy or imperfect, I hope that you're still able to create and experience some truly beautiful moments. Thanks for watching. Bye.
But you gotta be there for me too.